Good evening and welcome to the Candidates Forum presented by the League of Women Voters of Northwest Wayne County. My name is Carrie Dupree and I am the president of the Northwest County League. Tonight we welcome the candidates running for the Northville School Board. We thank the school district for allowing us to use their facility for this public education event. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. We do not support or oppose any. 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 We do not support or oppose. Years old. So if you are interested in joining this public service organization, please let us know. Membership applications are on our website at lwvnorthwestwayne.org. The League's main mission is to promote political responsibility through informed and active participation in government. One of the ways we do that is by having forums such as this one tonight. The League has also prepared a nonpartisan voter guide, which can be found online at www.vote411.org. By typing in your voting address, you can view the races on your ballot and the candidates' responses to questions posed by the League. You can also find the link to the voter guide on our website. These web addresses, are provided on free bookmarks that are available on the table in the back of the room. Our print edition of the voter guides will be available at the Northville Library late September. If you would like to ask questions of the candidates' audience members, and we certainly encourage this, please write your questions on a card and hand it to one of the ushers. If you raise your hand, an usher will come and get the card. Our moderator will ask as many questions as time allows. Questions should be brief, to the point, and should not include personal attacks on the candidates. We reserve the right to screen the questions for duplication and clarity. At this time, we ask all of our audience members to please be sure their cell phones are silenced. Election Day is November 5th. If you are not registered to vote, you can do so up through Election Day. Within 14 days of the election, registration must be done at the office of your city clerk. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., but all registered voters can vote early by absentee ballot. Remember that you must fill out and return an absentee ballot application to your city or township clerk before a ballot can be mailed to you, unless you're already on the permanent absentee ballot list. If you need an absentee ballot application, contact your clerk. Early voting will begin October 26th. Contact your clerk's office for locations. Oakland County voters can vote early at the Northville Township Hall starting October 26th and running through November 3rd. The views expressed at this forum are those of the candidates and not of the League of Women Voters. I'd like to introduce you now to our moderator, League member, and co-president of Michigan League of Women Voters, Paula Bowman, who will provide you with more details about tonight's forum.
Thanks, Carrie. Good evening and welcome again to the Candidates Forum for the 7 candidates running for 4 positions on the Northville Board of Education. My name is Paula Bowman. I am the co-president of the League of Women Voters of Michigan and a member of the Northwest Wayne County League. I'm also moderator. All qualified candidates were invited and we're delighted that all 7 are here tonight. All the candidates have agreed to the format for tonight's forum, which is as follows. Each candidate will be allowed a 1-minute opening statement, a 1-minute response to all the questions, and a 1-minute closing statement. The order that the candidates speak was determined before the recording of this forum began and will rotate the order of the candidate who responds to a question first. League member Carrie Moon Dupree, who you just met, produced this forum tonight. Tony Jones will be our moderator, and we have another number of other league members working to make this forum a success. Tony will be holding up cards so that the candidates know when their time is up. The candidate must stop, please, when the stop sign appears. And now we're going to get started. Let's begin with our 1-minute opening statements. Ms. Mabry, can you go ahead and start?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jenna Mabry, and I want to thank you all for coming to this forum and thank the League for not only this forum, but all the work you do. It's very important. One of the best things about Northville is our engagement in the community. I'm proud to have 2 little ones at Winchester Elementary, and my profession as a pharmacist allows me the time to volunteer with the students. I do PTA, robotics, and Girl Scouts. I have spent years developing a deep knowledge base of our district's inner workings and policies. I've served on various district committees and attended and watched dozens of board meetings and community of the whole meetings. I enjoy collaborating with stakeholders to problem solve issues, and I'm well known in our state legislators' offices because of my advocacy on behalf of public education. I understand the requirements and the expectations required to sit on the school board, and I'm excited at the possibility to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Moorer.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Meredith Maurer, and I am actually a former school counselor from Northville High School. And prior to that, I was an English teacher in Bloomfield Hills and Maryland before that. So my background is in education, and that is one of the main reasons that I'm running for school board this year. I think it's really important to have former educators have voice on the board because we know that our teachers' working environment is our kids' learning environment. So we need to make sure that those are cohesive for everybody. I have 2 little ones who aren't quite school age yet, but they will be at Thornton Creek starting kindergarten next year, my son Nick. I'm just really excited for this opportunity to be here. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Marwa.
Hi, good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters of Northwest Wayne County for inviting me to participate in this event. I truly appreciate the opportunity, so thank you. And thank you also to Northville Schools for hosting this in this building here. I was born and raised here in Wayne County. I grew up in Dearborn Heights. I went to the University of Michigan Dearborn, where I earned my bachelor's degree, and then went straight to law school at Wayne State, where I got my JD in 2001. I've been a practicing lawyer. I've been corporate transactional law, and then the last several years being in-house counsel at different companies where I focus on regulatory compliance. So I know contracts, I know compliance law. I moved into Northville 10 years ago, and I moved here specifically for the schools for my kids. But since the pandemic, I saw a lot of things that were not great experiences for my kids. And one of the reasons why I want to serve on the board is to make sure that those things never happen again. My son is now a senior and my daughter is a 7th grader.
Thank you. Mr. Frazier.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having us here tonight, and thanks everyone for showing up. My name's Ron Frazier. I have 2 kids in the district. Professionally, I have spent 25 years working in technology, including more than a decade in educational IT and the last 10 years in healthcare and medical research. So I have experience. The prime focus of all my work is student and patient privacy. So that's something important I can contribute to the schools. The last 6 years, I've been volunteering extensively throughout the schools. I have been a Girl Scout cookie dad and co-leader for both of my kids' troops. I have been a robotics coach for the 4th and 5th grade students at Winchester. I am a PTSA president at Meads Mill, where I've created a student group, and all my work is kind of focused around giving students a voice, giving them opportunities to express leadership, and that is what I'd kind of like to continue as a member of the Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McIntyre.
Hi, thank you so much to the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight, and obviously Northville Public Schools in this space. Appreciate all of the candidates showing up tonight. It's really great to hear from everybody. And also to the Northville community. Appreciate the chance to introduce myself. Some of you know me. I've been serving on the school board for the last 4 years. I'm a mom to 3 children here in Northville, 2 recent graduates, and 1 in middle school. I've recently received endorsements by the Northville Education Association and noteworthy Northville leaders. Proves that my service to the community on the school board these past 4 years has really had a positive impact. My continued leadership for our community is important to uphold Northville Public Schools' long-standing commitment to excellence. I'm also a mental health professional, and I've been serving kids and families for over 35 years. In order for Northville Public Schools to remain a top destination district for students and educators, we must continue our efforts to address wellness and continue to be a welcoming place for all students and educators. I look forward to sharing with you my accomplishments these past 4 years and top priorities going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Deloche.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Philip Deloche. I'm an attorney by trade, and I'm in private practice just down the road in Plymouth. I hold 3 other professional licenses, a Florida State Bar license, a Michigan Real Estate Broker's license, and a Michigan Professional Investigator's license. I have 4 kids in the district, a 1-year-old who will attend NPS when he gets a little bit older. I have 1 here at Old Village, and I have 2 at Moraine Elementary School. The reason I'm running for the school board is to leverage my expertise and lend my business and finance acumen. I practice business and tax law primarily, and hopefully I can use those to help implement policy and oversight for the betterment of all of our kids. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Toski.
Thank you. Thank you to the league. My name is Eric Toski. I am a husband and a father. We have a wonderful 9-year-old who's about to be 10 and going into, he's in 4th grade. We moved here in 2020 during the pandemic for the schools. My background, I think, is crucial importance is for my number 1 priority of school safety, safety of the students, safety of the educators. I have served almost 28 years with the Detroit Police Department, the last 10 being in senior leadership, and I'm now the Director of Security for Henry Ford Health. I have a labor background, serving as union president for the Command Officers Association and as vice president, total of 6 years as president and 2 as vice president. So I think that brings an important part when you're talking about collective bargaining as relates to teachers and educators and whatnot. So priority number 1 is school safety for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll get started with our questions now. And Ms. Mabry, we're going to start with you. What qualities do you think make a good school board member?
Well, thank you for this question. I think a school board member must have a vision, must be looking towards the future. Fortunately, NPS is an excellent school district, and we have decades-long foundation of successes under our belt. And I feel so lucky to be here. I also moved here, like many of you, because of the reputation of the school. However, as a school, as any successful organization, we must continue to look forward to see what we can improve. So definitely looking forward, looking for improvements. A good school board member must be collaborative. I have a lot of experience with that. I love reaching out to the community and stakeholders. I've had issues within the school where I've talked to educators and brought it up with board members. So collaborating, also being very good with communication. I think transparency is also key. I'd love to see improved the communication with the board. So I'm great at communicating with the community. And just a general sense of keeping a higher view and not going too much into the details, because that's the job of the superintendent administration, but just making sure the board is keeping it at the 10,000 foot view. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Moorer.
Great question. Thank you. As a current mental health professional in private practice, I think that one board member is able to listen and is willing to hear different perspectives, and not only from our littlest kiddos, but all the way up through the board office. All of those voices matter, along with having that ability to listen is that ability to collaborate. So I'm glad that Jenna brought that up. I think that the board serves a great purpose in collaborating to make sure that we have a great vision to keep Northville great schools. My husband is a graduate of Northville schools. We also moved here for the schools, so we want to continue to see that we maintain excellence.
Thank you. Ms. Marwa.
Some of the qualities that I believe a board member for Northville School should have is one, leadership. Two, you need to have the passion and desire for the kids in the district and to ensure that they have the best education that they're getting. And I agree with Jenna and Meredith, sorry, I apologize, on some of the other things and skills to bring to this, looking for somebody who's willing to be transparent, somebody who can communicate, and listening, because we have to listen to not only the parents and kids, but we need to listen to the teachers, we need to listen to the staff, we need to listen to everybody. And there needs to be better communication and better transparency. And, lots of other skills that I think would be necessary would be things like, being able to understand and interpret laws, be able to read and review contracts, and things that I'm very well capable of doing if I'm chosen to serve on the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Frazier?
I think collaboration is a key. It's really important to get the perspectives of the entire community on everything, to listen to opposing opinions, try to work together to resolve them. That's a key to coming up with good solutions that solve the problem for as many people as possible. It's also good to be able to, it's important to be able to research topics, to look at, not just the obvious stuff, but look for the edge cases, look for where it may, things may be a little bit different from what you're expecting. There may be unexpected outcomes, see who's going to be affected. That's really important. And just passion, because it's not an easy job. There is a lot of time invested. There's so much involvement, and you really have to be dedicated to this position to take it on.
Thank you. Ms. McIntyre.
Yeah, great question. I think as I sit here thinking about the very many dialogues that I've had amongst the other school board members, I think being a hard worker, solution-focused, open-minded, being flexible. I appreciate what Ms. Marwa said about being a leader, right? That to be a leader in the community also means being embedded in the community, having deep networks with people, being a good listener, right? Asking the hard questions, listening for the answers that we might be surprised to hear. I also think that really being focused on what's best for students, really being student-centered is so critical here in Northville. Being flexible, being creative as we're thinking about how do we solve for things that we might not even be anticipating yet. And being willing to have hard conversations with people where our views are also challenged is important. And being a lifelong learner, being willing to read and research and dig in and not be an expert all the time.
Thank you. Mr. Deloche.
A good candidate should have the ability to use a sense of business acumen and bring that to the board. I think first and foremost, the board is something that should be run like a business. The oversight that the candidates have and the voice that they provide for their constituency are their primary responsibilities. Transparency is absolutely essential. To be transparent, there has to be an inherent ability for the board member to listen. They have to listen to students, listen to teachers, listen to the administration, and listen to parents. And balancing all of those interests and able to form policy that is educated and purposeful is the primary sense of what needs to occur.
Thank you. Mr. Toski?
All great answers already. So to build on that, leadership, I certainly support that as a quality. I think that communication and listening, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We all should be listening a little bit more. But I do think that we need to have vision, and I think that a good candidate, a good board member should have vision for the future and not just think about what's going on in the short term. Short-term things are obviously very important, but to have this idea of what needs to occur when we're not around. What's going to happen when my So I got 10 years until my kid's 18. What's going to happen after that 10 years? I have to be able to plan for that. And I think a good board member should be able to plan for the future and not just for what's going on at the given moment. Students are important, but so are the educators. So are the people that are administrators of the school. So I think weighing both of those things are important. Obviously, you want to have the best education for the kids, but you need a great environment for teachers to want to come here and work in this school district. Thank you.
Thanks. We'll start the second question with you, Ms. Maurer. Would you pronounce your name so I get it right?
Maurer.
Maurer.
Hockey equipment, Bauer.
Oh, yeah.
Bauer is really weird.
Okay, I'm from a hockey family, so, okay. We got two questions about book banning, so I'm combining these. What is your opinion about book banning, and who should decide what books Northville students should have in their school libraries?
Baptism by fire tonight, huh? Well, as a former English teacher, I am not a supporter of book banning. I think it's critical that we allow a variety of voices to be heard in our schools. Those books exist for a reason. I've taught everything from To Kill a Mockingbird to Of Mice and Men, all of the great canonical stories from many years ago. But I think that as far as who gets to, can you phrase that? Who gets to decide the question or the books?
Who should decide what books Northville students should have in their school libraries?
I see. Okay. I think that in the libraries that goes to the librarians and the board and the people who get to look at what the purpose of those books are and why they exist. And I think that that's a community decision as well. Certainly we need parent perspective and teacher perspective as well.
Thank you. Ms. Marwa.
Thank you. My personal opinion is I don't agree or support book banning. I think who should make the decision is a combination of everybody within the district. Ask the parents what they think. The teachers should definitely be involved. The librarians, the school board, the staff, everybody should make a collective decision on what books get banned. Personally, I'm surprised to see that the books that I grew up reading are no longer being taught to any of the kids. I'm surprised that my kids are not reading books that I used to read, and I don't understand why. And that's actually something I'd like to understand why.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier.
Yeah, I am not a fan of book banning. I think the choices for books should be chosen by our media center professionals. Do a great job at it, and our teachers. When we do, larger library stocking, library refreshes, we have committee of parents that participate in that. I participated in the past, but I think it's really important that we have a variety of books that kids can see themselves in. It's good to have different perspectives so that they can identify with the books, feel accepted, and it promotes openness and understanding of different people and different cultures. And so I'm not in favor of book banning, but if any parent has a problem with the book, we do have policies in place where they can challenge it and it'll be reviewed.
Thank you. Ms. McIntyre.
Yeah, thank you. Good question. Certainly, book banning is not something I support. I think that the district has done a really fantastic job with embracing the diverse community that attends Northville Public Schools. And alongside students and parents and educators and community members, I think there's been a really thoughtful approach to evaluating which new books might need to become part of our community resources. It's really important that kids can see themselves reflected in books. The other thing that I think is important is that we're preparing kids to leave Northville. So it's important to offer them reading material and conversations that set them up for success when they leave Northville, so that they know how to engage in a world beyond our little town.
Mr. Deloche.
Thank you. No, I'm not for book banning. To my knowledge, there is a committee of parents that's involved in the selection of some of the book material for the kids currently. I think it's good to balance the opinions of the parents, but the book should be curated by the educators to affect the curriculum. And to the extent that there are books that parents disagree with, if there was a policy and the budget allowed and the curriculum allowed for an alternate selection of books. I've seen that implemented in some districts quite successfully.
Thank you. Mr. Toski.
I am absolutely against book banning. I'm against censorship. I think that the idea of allowing parents as a committee is a great idea with educators. If anything, I think that dissent allows for everybody to get together and talk about why they dissent about something, and that makes for great discourse, which I think is great for kids to have in terms of their evolution of what their civic duties are. We're not going to have 100% consensus on anything, and I don't think that we should strive for that. I think that any version of censorship whatsoever in the schools is something I greatly oppose.
Thank you. Ms. Mabry.
I am an avid reader, so I am definitely against book banning. I don't support it in any way, shape, or form. I agree with the others who have said that children need to see themselves in books. It's important for them to learn. I do agree with Northville Public Schools policy of how they choose books, which is leaving it up to the experts with a committee of the educators and parents. So we already do implement that process. I do understand some parents do feel uncomfortable with some books, and fortunately, Northville Public Schools does already have alternate selections of books in the curricula, so that does exist as well. So I think that's a great way for the district, not banning books and also allowing the parents who want to be more in control of what their children are reading, give them that choice. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start the third question with Ms. Marwa. Running a school district is like running a business. Northville's budget is $100 million. What qualities do you as a candidate have to fill these skills?
Sorry, I don't understand what you were saying at the end of that question.
Let me read it over. I'm sorry, I should have. Running a school district is like running a business. Northville's budget is $100 million. What qualities do you have as a candidate to fill the skills required to handle this budget?
So the skills or qualities to handle a budget. Well, I personally, being a single mom and head of my household, I have to balance my own budget. So just like balancing my own budget, I'm very well qualified and have the skills that anybody needs to be able to balance a budget for a business. I work in a company. I know what, financial statements and having to manage a budget as well. So I have the experience, personal experience and professional experience to manage budgets, to make sure your budget is balanced, and to figure out what are the needs of the district. So, where should we be spending our money? And it should be carefully looked at every single year.
Thank you. Mr. Frazier?
Yes, likewise, I am responsible for all the financial planning in our family. So, I've been dealing with that for our entire time we've been together. I ran a few small independent businesses a couple decades ago, so I was responsible for all that. And now, as PTSA president, I'm also responsible for working with our treasurer and overseeing making decisions on our budget, what we can afford into it, how we can stretch it as far as possible to get the best deal on everything and to accomplish the most to help the students as much as we can. So, yeah.
Ms. McIntyre?
Yes, in the past 2 years, I've been a part of the finance subcommittee here in Northville, and along with that, I've served as treasurer. So I've gotten a really deep understanding of school finance and how involved that is and how intricate those systems are. Understanding that Northville is not a hold harmless district. So Northville receives the minimum foundation allowance from the state. We are not allowed to seek operating millages from our community to further support our budget. Along with that, I've run my own small business, I understand finance. That's an integral part of being a treasurer for a school district. I think the other piece of it is knowing how to hire the right people to do this job, that we are volunteers. Our job is to oversee the budget, not getting down into the weeds of the day-to-day operations, but making sure that we are being very fiscally responsible with the money that the district has been granted to serve kids.
Thank you. Mr. Deloche.
So running businesses is my day job. As a private practice attorney, I advise businesses, small and large, all over Michigan on how to optimize their operations and look at their budgets. I served as a general counsel for the largest Century 21 brokerage in Michigan, as well as 2 mortgage brokerages in Michigan and 1 located in Georgia. Now back in private practice, I'm also a tax attorney and tax preparer. I prepared over 4,000 tax returns. I see financials every day from, wage earners to business owners to wealthy individuals with mostly interest and dividend income. I've seen it all. So if there's someone who is asked to run a business, usually they will seek me out and ask for advice, and I'm happy to bring that experience to the board.
Thank you. Mr. Toski.
Well, I'd ask everybody not to look at the Amazon packages on my porch to talk about my personal finances. But aside from that, in senior leadership with the police department, we had to deal with budgets for the city of Detroit. I went through the bankruptcy, so I understand the impact of that. I understand the impact that it had on pensioners, on workers throughout the entire time from 2014 on. So dealing with the budgets through the city of Detroit, and now as the director of security for Henry Ford Health, we're just about to build a $3 billion new hospital across the street. We have full-time employees, contingent employees, so I understand labor costs, I understand supply chain matters, all the different nuances as it relates to a variety of budgeting. So I think that I could bring that experience to the board here from the time in Detroit and the time with Henry Ford Health.
Thank you. Ms. Mabry.
Well, as a homeowner, PTA treasurer, and pharmacist, I have the skills and the ability to scrutinize a budget with integrity and accountability. Understanding the intricacies of our district is how the district is funded is the first step in being able to fiscally maintain the budget. And because of the complexities, I have recently taken a class, one-on-one class with a budget expert. It was 4 hours long. I got quite the education. But I'm pleased that the district is in a very strong position financially. We have a superior bond rating and we have a large fund balance. As for prioritizing where our dollars are spent, I would ensure all decisions would have the maximum impact on the greatest number of students. I would work with the administration team to verify our spending is going toward the goals that we envisioned. And I'd also review our programs to check that we're getting the return on the investment that we expect. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Marrer.
I'm a small business owner. I'm a private practice therapist. I own a small business and I oversee 7 other clinicians that work with me. So I have gotten very accustomed to payroll and understanding budgets and overhead and all things I never thought I would need to know getting my undergrad at U of M in English. So I have learned quite a lot over the last 5 years of owning this business. And my husband and I also own a exterior building products company as well, which happens to be a little bit different than what I do, but it's part of our day-to-day life to understand how to budget and manage payroll and all those different pieces, which is a huge part of what the board does. So it's I bring a lot of experience there.
Thank you. Mr. Frazier, we'll start this next question with you. Presently, is school security in the district adequate? If it needs strengthening, what would you do to strengthen it?
Thank you. Yeah, I think we do a very good job in the district. We have 3 SROs that are spread across our schools, and that is a very important step. It's building those connections with the students. They're there to interact with them and build those relationships so that when students see something, they feel comfortable talking to them. We have security consultants that come in on a regular basis to review all the buildings in depth, make recommendations, and work those upgrades into things like our bond and other programs to make sure we're at the top. And I know that a lot of that's kept secret for security reasons, so I can't really comment on where any of that stands. But that's my stance here.
Thank you. Ms. McIntyre.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think this question is on everyone's mind, right? Especially after the events that took place in Georgia last week. School security, it is really always top of mind, I think, for anyone that is part of a school district, a parent, an educator, a student, unfortunately. I think our school security is really top notch. We have 3 SROs. I'm proud to have led the efforts to bring in 2 additional SROs in the last 2 years that we prior to that had 1. We've also upgraded our communication system so that any person who's working in one building can easily go to a different building and easily understand how that communication system works. I think that was a big upgrade. We also worked on our emergency response plan after the swatting incident at Hillside, worked with consultants about crisis management and making sure that we follow good protocol that loops the community in so that it allays the worries for parents who are not part of the, that particular response at that time. I also think we're working on relational practices with our kids.
Thank you. Mr. Deloche?
Is the security adequate? I'm not sure. I'm not a security expert, but it is certainly one question that is top of mind as a parent. Priority on the board would be to ensure that it is adequate and what is being done to make sure that it works. I do know that some of the security aspects are kept private for good reason, but as a board member, I would work with the superintendent and administration and security experts that we have in order to make sure that that is adequate for all of the parents. Everyone has a kid here, and everyone fears the worst that could happen to their child. And I think every school board around the country has this as a priority, and I do as well.
Thank you. Mr. Toski?
I think anybody who thinks that any school district in the country is adequate is not using enough imagination about what could happen. I think that we have a great law enforcement with the Northville and the township, but there are so many different things that we could do better. I think 3 SROs is great, but I don't think it's enough. I don't think we target harden our schools enough. I think that we don't do enough screening, and we hope that things don't happen. I don't think hope is the solution that we need to have. There are so many different things that we could be doing differently. It all costs money. We all have to bite the bullet on what is going to be acceptable in our schools and what's not acceptable. We need to have those honest conversations. I don't think we have them enough. And so I do think that we could do a lot more in the school district to ensure safety.
Ms. Mabry?
Thank you. As a mother, this is the most difficult question for me. I feel NPS does a great job with safety, evidenced by the SROs, the key fobs, the training of the staff, the partnerships. So I feel safe with my kids here, but as we all know, gun violence is the #1 killer of kids and teenagers. And the anxiety I feel every day that my kids might be gunned down in school, it's paralyzing. And we shouldn't have to live like this. Enough is enough. I am an active member of both Moms Demand Action and Be Smart, which is the safe gun storage laws that keeps kids safe. As a board member, I would advise the district to give out the information about the Be Smart, gun safely stored, and the new laws that were passed in Michigan, the gun safety laws to keep Michigan families safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mauer?
As everybody else has already stated, this is such a tough question for parents, and my little ones aren't quite in the district yet, but every time we see something like what just happened in Georgia and in Oxford, I was in middle school when Columbine happened, and I very clearly remember that happening. So having 2 little kids, it's just a constant fear. I've also worked in schools. I've been a teacher. I've sat in those classrooms with kids. I've seen their faces. I'm sorry. After shootings and things that have happened, and it's scary. And it would be a huge priority of mine to make sure that our buildings are safe for our kids and our students, because nobody should go to school and feel like one day they're not going to come home.
Thank you. Ms. Marwa?
Is security adequate? I don't know, but like anything, there can always be improvements. So I think, I'm not sure if it currently exists, but I definitely believe that the staff, administration, teachers should go through annual training on secure measures and what they need to do in the event of any type of situation. I have to go through at work an annual training on an active shooter situation or a disgruntled employee situation. I think the district, all the schools should go through that as well with experts in that area. Hire security experts, work with the law enforcement to bring in that training and make sure they're trained on an annual basis. Security to me also is not just about what's happening in the schools. It's also about the buses. I personally experienced some very unsafe situations with kids, with my own children, on buses. And I think the buses need to be safe and secure as well. And that's something that I think the school board should take an active look through their contracts with the transportation.
Thank you. Ms. McIntyre, you'll get this next question first. What are your thoughts on the district's diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts? Should they be expanded or toned down?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I think, we are fortunate in Northville that we have a very diverse population. We have a lot of families with all kinds of different world languages that are being spoken at home. We have families who have, single parents, parents of the same gender. I think it's important for kids to have the skills to be able to have conversations with each other and to work on those relationships so that they are able to deal with conflict, that we can reduce the bullying. I know that we hear a lot about concerns about behavior inside the school and on buses. And I think when people are living on islands and not able to have conversations with each other, that's when we see more negative impact on kids. So I think we do need to continue what we're doing as far as inclusive, welcoming spaces for our students. I think it's important.
Thank you, Mr. Deloche.
I'm not sure what the current implemented diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts are at the school, but I think all children need to have exposure to all sorts of different cultures, different policies, different home makeups. I don't think bullying is acceptable anywhere. And to the extent that the kids can learn those life skills now, it will better serve them in the future. I think the board, like anything, should have oversight, work with administration to make sure that there is some sort of policy going on so that these kids can be prepared for the future.
Thank you. Mr. Toski?
I think it's important to take affirmative steps to ensure that people are represented, that the educators are represented, that the administrators are, and that students feel that their voice is heard as well. So I think that having these conversations are important. I know at home I have conversations with my son all the time about different races and cultures and things that are acceptable and not acceptable. And I think that schools have a duty to have those conversations with the children as well. I think having that open, honest dialogue is important. Sometimes it's very uncomfortable, but I think that the more that we do it, the better community that we're going to end up having.
Thank you. Ms. Mabry?
I definitely think the DEI programming should be expanded. There are still incidents that are happening, even at the elementary level, where children are called racist names or made fun of because of their religion or disability. So I think the programming should expand. I love Northville Public Schools because we do have a diverse community. We have 51 languages that are spoken at home amongst the students. And for education, every child deserves to feel seen and respected and accepted for who they are and what skills they bring to the table. My work on the Winchester PTA board, we facilitated the very first multicultural night at Winchester, which was a smashing success. My work on the parent advisory group at the early education, I asked for how we could incorporate the Cook students into our literacy night. So I love diversity, and as board member, I'll definitely keep that policy.
Thank you. Ms. Maurer?
We live in an ever-changing world, and Northville is no exception to that. And I think it's important that we continue to expand the ways in which our students can learn from each other, learn about different cultures, learn about different races, religions. I can speak to the high school from when I was there. They've done a great job with clubs and other activities. And recently, the past couple years, they've had their Inclusion Week, which has been fantastic. So I think that we can always keep growing and keep moving forward and making sure everyone feels like they have a space here.
Ms. Marwa.
So I also am not aware of what the DEI efforts or policies of the district are. I know that there are things that different schools have done to promote diversity over the years, especially recently. As far as diversity, equity, and inclusion, I would like to know: is there a committee? What does the committee do? What is their purpose? What's their mission? We have a DEI committee council with the company I work for. I don't serve on it, but I know the things that we do. But there's a purpose for having that. I also know that DEI is a buzzword now in the community, well, across the country, and there are companies, a big company here in the area as well, who has recently said that, maybe we don't need to continue to have DEI initiatives or have a focus on DEI anymore. So perhaps there should be, the board should take a look at what's going on. I think the board should be diverse itself as well. And that's something I can and would bring to the board.
Thank you. Mr. Frazier.
Yeah, I think DEI is very important. It's important that all students be seen and understood and accepting of each other. I think we have some really good efforts in our district in terms of, we have the multicultural nights that are done by the PTAs in many of the schools. If you just go into a couple of schools, I know Winchester and Silver Springs, they have flags up for all the nationalities of the students that are in the schools to support them, make them, see each other and understand each other. We have unified programs that, bring students together to help each other from all different perspectives of life. And, like everything, we definitely can do more. No matter how hard you work, there's still going to be, bullying that goes on, and that's a continuing effort that we always have to address. It's never going to go away, but we have to keep trying and keep helping kids understand and how to accept each other. And so, yeah, there's room to expand.
Thank you. Mr. Deloche, we'll start this next one with you. Are there any projects or initiatives you hope to champion if you're elected to the school board?
Thank you for the question. Not specifically. I mean, I think the focus needs to be on maintaining the excellence that is Northville schools. To the extent that there are problems faced by the board, I believe the state just slashed a good portion of the budget. And so that's one thing that I would hope to be able to help with, tackle that future planning and make sure that the response to that is not a one-time event and can be planned for the future so that there's adequate funds to go around. I think importantly, there needs to be an effort to really seek understanding amongst, again, the constituency. And that includes the parents, it includes the students, but it also includes the teachers so that we can form policy based on their expertise and that we can work with administration successfully to implement it.
Thank you. Mr. Toski?
I would want to make Northville the safest school district in the country. That would be the thing I would like to champion the most, whether that's bringing in more resource officers, doing physical security changes, increasing the amount of training that educators, students, and administrators have would be the thing that I would champion the most. I would leverage as much as I could from everything that I've learned in Homeland Security and physical security and bring that to the school district. I would work diligently with both the chiefs in Northville and Northville Township, work with the school officers, and make this to be the number one priority to make this the safest district in the country.
Thank you. Ms. Mabry?
I do have a lot of ideas. I would like to improve the transparency and communication of the board. There have been a few instances lately where it seems like to the community that issues have come up that affect them that seem to come out of nowhere. So to mitigate this, I would love to create a newsletter that would describe what the board is doing, what progress they're making towards their goals. I also, when communicating with the board, it does seem to be a one-way communication. I would like to start a coffee hour so that the community can interact directly with the board so they'll feel more seen. Another thing I would like to institute is creating a culture shift that would delay the use of social media among our youngest kids. So delaying Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat. I'm very interested in the Wait Until 8th program that has parents sign a pledge that their children will not have access to social media until 8th grade. So I would like to work on shifting our culture. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mauer.
Thanks for bringing that up, Jenna. I'd like to piggyback off what Jenna said. As a mental health therapist and a former teacher, I have seen over my career, from having been in the classroom to working with kids in a private practice setting, just how much social media is impacting them. I worked in the high school, unfortunately, when we lost a few students to suicide over the course of the years that I was there. One of the hardest days of my career was dealing with one of those deaths, and we see it. It's in the research. Our kids are getting hurt by these types of things, and I think that as a board member, it would be really important to focus on making sure that we can really start combating a lot of that social media use with our kids.
Thank you. Ms. Marwa.
Thank you. So I'd like to see more transparency within the district. I also think communication and collaboration needs to be improved, collaboration among the schools. I personally saw through experience of my son that, the middle school was not talking to the high school. I think we need to collaborate and communicate more. A personal project or initiative I've been thinking about and would like to champion within the district is to, have more courses available to kids about learning life skills. I'm even hearing this from my own kids right now. We need classes on how to balance a budget, how to, cook dinner or fix cars or things like that. Normal life skills like how to buy a home, how to have a budget. Instead of just adding that to the curriculum, I think would be great. Going back to the previous question on DEI efforts, if the district and the community wants to have a DEI, committee or effort, I would like to see a committee formed to do things each month.
Thank you. Mr. Frazier?
Yeah, a few things that I would like to focus on. Under the category of mental health, cell phones is one thing I'm kind of passionate about. We recently implemented a policy that covered K through 8, but I think it needs to be expanded into the high school. Cell phones are very distracting for students, even when, even just hearing a notification, or even if their phones are away, not knowing what is going on in another classroom. That in the back of their mind, who is someone posting about me, or am I missing out on some conversation? I think if we can have that standardized across the school, that would help a lot. And I know students initially don't like that, but I've heard of other schools where they implement it, and after a while, students really appreciate that it was done. Another topic I'd like to focus on is community involvement. Like Jenna said, coffee chats are one thing. And I would just we have parent involvement when there's a specific topic and people come in to talk, but I would just love to have some more open-ended conversations, forums about broad topics.
Thank you. Ms. McIntyre.
All right, yeah, thank you. This is a question that allows me to speak to my heart too around mental health and wellness for students. That we're such a high achieving district. We have kids that put so much pressure on themselves and on each other. And it does pay off in some really great ways that our kids are succeeding and they're doing so well. We score in the top range for SAT scores. I think for me, one of the things I'd like to see us continue to work on is how do we bring our community resources in to support our kids. That we have some great resources through Northville Youth Network, through New Hope. We have many partners through Northville Cares. That how do we keep leveraging those relationships and also connect with parents and amplify student voice so that we know the pressures that we as a board have heard some of the pressures that they feel they are under. So how do we mitigate those? How do we support them? How do we improve student wellness, whether it's reducing cell phone use at the high school, but continuing to build on those community conversations so that we can be responsive to those community needs.
Thank you. Mr. Toski, we'll start this next question with you. What is your opinion on the U of M Health Clinic? Would you be in favor of a health clinic in the future?
So I'm not familiar with the U of M Health Clinic, so I'll start with that. I do think that I did go to U of M and there was a health clinic there, but I don't think that's the same thing you're talking about, probably. So I apologize for not having an informed answer.
Ms. Mabry?
Well, as we all know, our children cannot learn unless they are in the right space physically and mentally to do so. So I firmly support the health center, which would not have been paid for us. It would have been paid for grants. And I'm disappointed that it was taken off the table. I just think it would have been a wonderful support system to keep our kids in that learning space. Access to a nurse practitioner, medical doctor, and social worker. So students could conveniently receive treatment for minor illnesses or injuries. Any emotional and mental support would have been great, and crisis intervention. This all would have been a fantastic addition to our school support community. There was quite a bit of confusion and concern surrounding the consent laws, but as a pharmacist who has worked for over 20 years within the confines of these laws, they work well and they were appropriate. So I would be very happy to have the health center back. Our students are asking for emotional and mental support, and I would be happy to provide that opportunity to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maurer?
I would be in support of a clinic in the district. As Jenna said, our kids need that support, whether that be the, easy access to getting your physical for sports or for getting, seen by the nurse practitioner if you had a cough. That would reduce the amount of time that you miss school if you can just walk down to the clinic. But as far as mental health goes, there are so few providers who are actually available after school hours for our kids, and our kids need that. And if they had access to those types of services pretty quickly throughout the school day, however that would look, I don't know what that would quite look like, but that would make a world of difference for our kids and our families.
Thank you. Ms. Marwa?
Thank you. The U of M Health Clinic that was proposed this year, to my knowledge and from what I know about it and knew, I was not in favor and did not support it. I didn't have all of the information because I don't think that was communicated well. I was not able to attend any of the meetings that were held in person because unfortunately, as a single mom, I do have a lot on my plate and can't get to everything. But the communication that was given to me wasn't enough for me to know what benefits there were to it. I think one concern I heard and that I was aware of is that it would allow non-students access to the building. So going back to security, that's not okay. And I wouldn't support doing something like that.
Thank you. Mr. Frazier?
I was in support of the clinics. I attended all the meetings. I'm on record. I spoke at public comment twice in support of the clinics. The clinics would have represented a $2 million investment in our district every year. That would have been tremendous for our kids. It would have funded, among other things, 2 mental health professionals that would have started this month. Instead, we have zero investment, 0 mental health professionals from it. In addition, not all mental health problems manifest themselves through mental health. Sometimes they manifest themselves through physical health. And so the clinic would have been helpful for that. We have 564 students, which is 8% of our population, that are from economically disadvantaged families. For them, the zero deductible, zero copay service would have been a tremendous benefit for them. And I'm sorry that we're not able to provide that for them. So yeah, I'm in favor of it, and I wish we had done it.
Ms. McIntyre?
Thank you. Yeah, I think it was a tremendous loss to the district that we were not able to move forward with our community identified partner, which was U of M. I think the board voted in support of that. I know the board voted in support of that. We know the needs in our community. We know that there are underserved kids. I know there was some misinformation that was being shared as well. The laws are very specific about what a school-based health center can and cannot do, and it cannot provide any contraceptives. There are conversations that are against the law for practitioners to have through a school-based health center. I believe that the mental health services, I agree with what Mr. Frazier said. Many kids show up with a stomach ache, and once they develop a strong relationship with a nurse practitioner, they can start to talk about, actually, maybe there are other things that are bothering me. So I am fully in support of a health center. I think it was going to be a very secure setup. We did not even get past the start conversation to put into place what those safe and secure plans would be for our community.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Deloche?
So no, I'm not in favor of the health clinic. And the primary reason was I think there was a big lack of transparency from the prior board. The meetings were held, I think, at times that were inopportune and made it appear like they were trying to hide something. I appreciated that the board delayed a meeting where the vote was supposed to take place to give people additional opportunities to speak on the issue. What I had a problem with was primarily the security issue, which I think was not discussed. There wasn't obviously an opportunity for a Q&A. You're limited to your 3 minutes. And so the board wasn't able to address those questions directly, I understand, but it would have been a good opportunity for the board to hold some sort of town hall. I don't have an agenda, and I don't want to put my views on the parents. And so I think the actual answer here is the parents need to decide. The parents went around the board and got U of M to pull out, and so that's what should happen.
Thank you. Ms. Mabry, we'll start this next question with you. What one policy or decision set by the school board would you change?
Well, this is an easy one for me. If anyone knows me, it would be class sizes. They're laughing because they've heard it a million times. So actually how I got involved with the board is when my daughter transitioned from Old Village School to kindergarten, I was shocked at the number of students in her class. It was 25 kids to one student. And these are little kids. They don't know how to tie their shoes. They're missing their parents. We have phenomenal teachers, but I know that it's not a good situation for the students or the teachers. So I talked to the teachers, the administrators, and I gathered a coalition of 70 Winchester parents to bring the issue to the board. So that is definitely the one thing I would change, to lower the class sizes, make it a little bit more manageable for the teachers and better for the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maurer?
I'd have to say that I agree with Jenna. Having been an educator myself and been in the classroom, it is incredibly difficult to teach a classroom of 40 plus kids, which I was doing when I was teaching in Bloomfield Hills. I'm not sure where the current class sizes lie right now in Northville, but when I was a counselor at the high school, I had over 400 students on my caseload alone. Thankfully, the board did rectify that a couple of years ago after I left and got us a few new counselors at the high school. So I believe there are 7 now, perhaps 8. But certainly reducing class sizes so our kids are getting what they need and so our teachers aren't burnt out. We need our teachers to be happy and healthy and look forward to coming to school every day. And I know most of them do, because why would you teach if you weren't passionate about it and love our kiddos? But we certainly need to give our kids that opportunity to really be a focus in their classrooms.
Thank you. Ms. Marwa?
Well, I'll tell you the one policy decision the school board made that my daughter wants completely changed and keeps telling me every day, Mom, if you're elected to the school board, you have to change this, you have to change this. And unfortunately, that's the away for the day policy. I'm also not in favor of the kids having their cell phones in classrooms. I think it is disruptive, but I think there's maybe an alternative or a middle ground that the school board could implement instead of the completely taking it away. My daughter, who has only been in school for a week, has already expressed concerns about not being able to get access to her cell phone. So maybe there's a middle ground, and maybe the policy should be reviewed and revisited, and some change what they actually do in practice.
Thank you. Mr. Frazier?
Yeah, I guess, I guess I don't disagree with it, but I wish the cell phone policy had been expanded, as I said. I think it's very important that we include the high school in that. It needs to be standardized so that, kids feel safe and, being able to use cell phones at lunch. Students, I've talked to parents whose students have had pictures taken of them at lunch and kind of inopportune moments and shared around and kind of used to bully. I think, we need to standardize that and get students off those and help protect, their mental health and let them focus on what they're there for, which is learning.
Thank you. Ms. McIntyre.
I feel like I've made a lot of changes to policies in my 4 years of being on the board, so I won't bore everyone with those lists. But I would say one of the policies I would like to see us change is our after-school busing setup in terms of the after-school programming buses. We spend a lot of money on charter buses to take our kids to various different after-school activities, and I would like to see how we could renegotiate a contract with our service provider for buses. I think that would be important. And then I think the other policy I would like to see us address is how do we communicate when we have committee of the whole meetings and we talk about really important topics, whether it's an ALPS program or a health center, or what is the board thinking about in terms of how do we address mental health needs? How do we make those documents public facing so that it is easy to access that, so that the community does have a sense of like, what is the board, talking about and struggling with, so that it doesn't come as a surprise when the next action is, a new whatever it is.
Thank you. Mr. Deloche.
So I know that the board is limited with its ability to affect curriculum. My kids are younger, so I don't have an opinion on some of these policies for the older children, but between my two oldest kids, who are 8 and 6, there was a difference in the way that reading was taught. And it started with non-phonics based, and it has since progressed back to, I think, what was taught when I was little, which is phonics based. And I think there's been improvement. And my question would be to those educators who are seasoned and experienced professionals and have been teaching through all of the different types of demands that have been placed upon them with how they're supposed to approach curriculum. They have found a way to go back to what they know works, that's science-based, that has evidence of improvement in children. And I think the board, if they could, support those teachers in their ability to teach the way that they know how to teach and teach the skills that they know work.
Thank you. Ms. Maurer, we'll start this
Oh,
next
you're
one.
for me?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Toski. Had you checked off already?
did.
Please go ahead.
You knew
I'm
what I was
sorry.
going to say. I got to amplify what Ron said. I support what he says 110%. I think that I was very happy that the board implemented a policy for K through 8, but I do not think it's enough. I think that we need to take phones out of all students' hands all the way through high school. I think that parents want to do it, but they don't want to do it because no one wants to be the bad guy. I think teachers don't want to have that kind of negative interaction with their students. I think it's our responsibility to do it. I think it'll incredibly help mental health. I think that it will take away the distractions. And I don't think that'll impact security. I think that the thing that I've heard that you need your phone in case something bad were to happen. There are other measures that can be taken for that. I think for the impact for the kids, for the students, we have to take away everybody's phones.
Thank you. Now we'll start with our last question of the evening with Ms. Maurer. Where are there areas of concern regarding student achievement and test scores?
Where are there areas of concern? So Northville is a very high achieving district. Our students, come from a background of excellence. I guess I'll speak to from having been a counselor. I was a 9th grade counselor at the high school, so I worked pretty closely with the middle schools as well when the kids were coming up. I think one of the concerns is actually how much pressure is put on our kids to perform and to achieve those test scores. And there were so many conversations. I had parents calling me from 6th grade when their kids weren't coming up until 9th. How does my kid get into Michigan? How can my kid take this AP class over the summer as a 7th grader? I think that there's just a lot of pressure put on our kids, which is, one of our greatest benefits in some ways, that we do have such a high achieving district, but it also hurts us when our kids feel like they can't take a breath and they can't have a balanced life because they're trying so hard to achieve.
Thank you. Ms. Marwa.
Thank you. Areas of concern for achievement. I don't see an area of concern right now. I mean, Northville provides a lot of great opportunities for different types of classes. They have the IB program. They have honors classes, AP classes. That's great in terms of achievement. In terms of test scores, I think there's too much emphasis put on standardized testing and test scores. I think that's in general across the country. I grew up going to a private school. I never took standardized tests. And I'm a perfect example of somebody who can achieve well, do well in school, do well in the classroom, but also succeed in life without having to do well on a standardized test. I didn't do well on the ACT or SAT. I didn't do well on the LSAT. And unfortunately, that LSAT score was the reason I didn't get to go to the school I wanted to go to. And I think that's wrong. I don't think we should emphasize standardized tests and test scores. We should see how are the kids doing in their actual subject areas? How are they doing on the tests that they need in those subject areas?
Thank you. Mr. Frazier?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Meredith there that in our district there is this strong drive to achieve very highly and to kind of overburden yourself. I've known so many kids who have taken more AP and IB classes than they really want to, just because they feel they need to do it to compete with the other kids and just keep up with everyone and try to get every little bit of leg up that they can. And so they're taking classes that they really don't even want to take just to add to their score, the number of classes. And I think we need to find ways to encourage them to that's not necessary. It's a lot of the kids don't even end up going to U of M, but they push themselves that hard anyway. And just to have counselors work with them and let them know what the options are, what the possibilities are, and what they can do. And I would just
Thank you. Ms. McIntyre?
One of the things I'm really excited about with all of the technological advances with AI is that perhaps we can start to move away a little bit from this achievement-based culture. And could we really move to a depth of learning and a breadth of learning so that we can focus less on achievement tests and striving towards that, 1600 SAT and really kids pushing each other and comparing test scores, that really if we could really support kids in engaging on deep conversations about the material and convey their learning that way, I think we will see our kids start to experience less stress around those final exams, around those standardized testing opportunities. And I think the other piece of that is when a kid isn't the kid who's in the 99th percentile, they start to feel badly about themselves. So how do we address those kids that are in, the 75th percentile and below, so that they also feel like they are worthy of a great education, which they are, and they will have a successful future, even if they're not achieving the 1600 on the SAT.
Thank you. Mr. Deloche?
I think the primary area of concern here for schools should be education. So to the extent that there are concerns with achievements and test scores, we need to figure out what those concerns are. If the test scores are slipping, why? Do the test scores themselves represent and translate into knowledge? And if they do, great. But if they don't, why not? I don't know. The teachers probably know. The teachers are in there every single day. They know what curriculum they're given. They know how that curriculum translates to actual learning by the students. And if there's a problem, we need to give the teachers the resources that they need in order to successfully raise those scores or meet the metrics, and make sure that they translate into real learning. There is, I think there's a question that needs to be asked for how learning is being supplemented. Are kids using outside help, and why?
Thank you. Mr. Toski?
I think it's really great to hear the other candidates talk about things that I believe in as well. I don't think we should be studying for the test and preparing for the test. I think that we owe it to our kids to teach them about life. Tests are important. They're certainly a measure, but when you look at, are they good kids? Are they learning? And the stress that's put on them for some of the standardized testing, I think, is unnecessary. I don't think that we should be placing on all that onto them. I think it causes a divide, as one of the candidates said, that when we have somebody who's scoring really high and other people that don't score that high, what does that do for their mental health? You know, do they think that they're not as good as other people? And I think that divide needs to go away too. I think that we need to do better preparing people for life, preparing our students for life. And, you know, I went to college and I ended up working in a noble profession. All I needed was a GED. So.
Thank you. Ms. Mabry.
I definitely felt the pressure for testing when I was a kid. Does anyone here still have dreams about the tests that they're not prepared for? Because I have it at least once a month. I agree that we should take the emphasis off of testing. Unfortunately, with the 4-year college plan, the standardization is something that's kind of forced on the schools so that this is their measure of how to get into schools. But as Ms. McIntyre mentioned, learning is changing. AI is going to teach us many things where we can work together, and the 4-year college model may not be it because you can teach yourself how to do something, start your own business. So I agree that we are pressuring our kids and they're pressuring themselves in at the elementary level to score well on tests, and I'd like to see that be dialed back. Thank you.
Thank you all for your responses to these great questions. We're now going to start our closing statements with Mr. Toski.
Well, thank you again to the league for inviting us. Thanks to the other candidates for everybody showing up and all the great answers everybody gave. I think that it's important to have somebody on the board that has the experience that I have in public safety. Everyone has public safety and school safety at the top of their minds. And I think having somebody at the table who understands the same language as the practitioners is really important. I think that there's a lot of different things that impact schools, but every time you talk to somebody, they always come back and talk about how important safety is, and that it's important to have kids feel safe and educators feel safe and administrators feel safe. And there's a lot of different things that we can do. I have the experience in 28 plus years now of working in public safety, homeland security that I can leverage and bring to the schools. So thank you again for having me.
Thank you. Mr. Deloche?
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for coming, audience, and thank you to the candidates. I have the experience as an attorney to listen. I think that's the primary skill that the school board should have. Northville is a successful public school district. It should not change dramatically. Incremental change and listening to the voices of the constituency is the reason that the board should exist. The board should provide diligent oversight and effective communication and be the system that allows the teachers to talk to the parents, to talk to the administration. And if you like the answers here, then you should support for school board.
Thank you. Ms. McIntyre?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming to participate tonight. I think it was such a helpful discussion. And just want to emphasize, I bring steady leadership to our community that I've been serving on the board for the past 4 years. We have a relatively new board. We have 2 long tenured people who are rolling off and another one who decided not to run. So I'm the lone candidate who has board experience. I think we've done a lot of great things over the past 4 years, and I'm really excited to see how we can continue that collaboration with parents and students and the community and teachers as well. That we have such an awesome gem here in our community for our public school district that the way that we kind of set the bar high for the rest of the state, I think is impressive. And I think we can continue to foster that growth and development and continued academic excellence, along with creating and having the well-rounded humans as they enter into adulthood. That's what we want. We want kids to grow up and feel safe and secure and ready to be adults and make their own impact on the world.
Thank you. Mr. Frazier?
Thanks everyone for coming and for putting on this forum. It's great to hear everybody's answers and have this discussion. I think I bring, with my 25 plus years of experience in the tech field, education is changing. Technology is integrated everywhere and it's going to be advancing rapidly. I have broad experience not only in my professional work, but I've done a lot of side work in different areas of the tech field. I have a lot of experience. I think I can help guide the board on decisions in the future on how to implement that. But I also think this is something you need to be passionate about. It's a huge investment, and I think my work over the last 6 years is shown that this is something that I really care about. I really care about our students, giving them opportunities, and I hope you'll vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marwa.
No, sorry. Thank you again to the League of Women Voters for inviting me to this forum and having me participate, and for holding this forum. Thank you to the other candidates who attended. Thanks for the community for all the great questions. A lot of different topics we covered tonight. So I appreciate hearing from all the other candidates as well. I mean, there was a lot that we talked about tonight. And so I'm somebody who will get things done. And I want to make sure that we improve transparency within the district. I want to improve the learning environment for our children, and improve communication and collaboration among the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mauer.
Thank you to the League for hosting this evening, and to this impressive group of candidates. It was an honor to hear all of your responses. I think being a mom and a business owner and a mental health professional, and having firsthand experience in the classroom gives me a unique perspective that I can bring to the board from having actually been in school day to day. I know the board's job isn't to oversee the day-to-day operations, but I think it would be really beneficial to have somebody on the board who knows how a school actually functions, and what our teachers face every day, what our kids face every day, and what our parents experience, all the way from, down here with the littles at Old Village, all the way up through the high school and post-grad. So I would love the opportunity to serve on this board. I'm very passionate about public education, as I have served in education for well over 10 years and come from a family of service. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mabry.
Yes, thank you to the League for setting this forum up. It's been a pleasure. As a mother, a pharmacist with over 20 years of experience, and a community volunteer, I've developed the skills in leadership, active listening, problem solving, and collaboration. I hope I have demonstrated here with my answers that I have a deep knowledge of the school district, and I have already been working on behalf of the students and teachers of the district. I have unique and specific ideas, and my professional experience with finances enables me to scrutinize our district's budget. With a record of working hard to bring people together for our kids, I will partner with our experts and stakeholders to bring thoughtful and innovative ideas and decisions that will continue to elevate Northville Public Schools' academic excellence and amazing reputation. So vote for Jenna Mabry. Thank you.
Thank you. We again thank the Northville Board of Education for providing the venue and the videography for this event. This forum, as you know, has been recorded, and it can soon be linked from our website, lwvnorthwestwayne.org. Please note that the candidates or their supporters may not use portions of the forum or any audio clips, video clips, or transcripts for political advertising or other purposes without the written permission of the League of Women Voters of Northwest Wayne County. We also thank the candidates who are running for office. They are asking for the support of the public as they seek a job in the public service sector, and we hope voters will listen to their views. This is principally a volunteer job, so we hope the public understands that. We also appreciate the voters in Northville Township School District who are watching this forum, and those in the audience who have submitted such good questions. We're glad that people are learning about their choices. The candidates were also invited to participate in the League of Women Voters Voter Guide, a publication that you can access online by visiting vote411.org. Print copies of the voter guide will be at your local library at the end of September, early October. The League is providing this forum as an opportunity for candidates to express their views related to their candidacy. Statements expressed by the candidates are not endorsed or opposed by the League, and also the League doesn't certify any candidates' responses to questions as accurate. Voters are encouraged to fact-check information shared at the forum. Election Day is Tuesday, November 5th. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Early voting starts on October 26th and goes through November 3rd. If you're an Oakland County voter, you can vote at the Novi Civic Center from 8:30 to 4:30 during those early voting days. And if you are a Wayne County voter, you can vote at Northville Township Hall from 8 to 4, as I said, 9 days before the election day. You can also get an absentee ballot from your local clerk's office if you are not already receiving one because you're on the permanent absentee ballot list. If you are not registered to vote, you can still do so up through Election Day in Michigan. Within 14 days of the election, though, and we're getting close to that, registration must be done at the office of your city or township clerk. This concludes our forum for this evening. We thank the candidates very much for their participation.